I'd like to call the city council meeting of November 25th to order. Roll call, please.
Alderman Cameron.
Here.
Alderman Anderson.
Here.
Alderman Morgan Adams.
Here.
Alderman Dash is absent with prior notice. And then Alderman Dolick.
Here.
Please stand for the pledge. Item 3, approval of minutes. We need a motion to approve the November 11th, 2024 City Council regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Anderson.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Cameron.
Aye.
Alderman Anderson.
Aye.
Alderman Morgan Adams.
Abstain.
Alderman Dolick.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 6, public comment on agenda matters. Do we have any?
Yes, we have five slips filled out.
Okay. So we can start with the first.
First is Grace Martinez. Topic of chickens.
Yep.
Hello, everybody. How's everyone tonight?
Good.
My name is Grace Martinez. I am at 1213 Highland Drive, and I just wanted to kind of just reiterate, I know I've sent out some emails to a bunch of different people up here, more so before, but back in the June meeting for the zoning board had decided to revisit what they had wanted to go over as far as the restrictions. And at that, when we left that meeting, the meeting was basically, let's regulate the coop, the position, because that should take away from a lot of the complaints that the people that were having issues with the chickens would cover. And then if that didn't prevent the issues, then we can move forward again in the future and put even more restrictions. So I implore you guys to please take a look at the restrictions that are being placed. 20 birds, I know it sounds like a lot, really isn't. In the past, if you don't add chickens every single spring, you're not going to have eggs in the fall. So for example, for the past 3 weeks, I've had 0 eggs from 12 hens because I didn't add any in the spring. And it's just, you know, one of these things that we can't, if we have a limit, we are not going to be able to have the eggs that we want to be able to have. With the recent election, we can all see that the American whole is, you know, worried about food security and the prices of goods, and eggs is the #1 thing people brought up when they're talking about the elections. And it is true, they're going up in price, and you know, the restrictions are going to restrict us as homeowners, as people who are doing the right thing with their birds and their neighbors. And in addition, I just would like to kind of have you guys take a look at the rooster ban too. You know, we've had 3 complaints from the community about roosters. Those complaints had been addressed without laws in place, without restrictions in place to prevent these roosters from being in our city, so it self-fixed the own problem. And you know, there are many roosters in our city that have absolutely no issues. I can tell you 5 homes within my 2 blocks that have roosters. 2 of them have multiple roosters, and no one has issues. There's been never any complaints from anybody. So I implore you, please take a look at this. Let's address the coop issue, the permits for the zoning board, which is what they, you know, when we had originally discussed and thought we had agreed upon, and, you know, move forward if those things don't address the complaints of the other residents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Lynn Shoemaker, also on chickens.
Hi, I'm Lynn Schumacher. I live at 19 South Wildwood Drive in Country Gardens. I'm one of the people that's anti-chicken or whatever, anti-rooster totally. I've lived through rude chicken owners right next door to me. It took years to get rid of the roosters. The current laws that happened did nothing to help that, and it put the total responsibility on me and my husband to constantly call, just deal with it, couldn't go out in our yard, still can't keep our doors open and windows open because they don't have roosters right now, but the chickens are still squawking everywhere. And if you get new chickens every spring, well, you get roosters too, because they just kind of happen to be in the bunch. At least that's what I've been told. Doesn't really matter if I'm right or not. But I'm asking you.
Excuse me.
I'm talking.
Yes, please don't interrupt.
So I'm asking on behalf of the people that don't want chickens or don't want roosters, are willing to deal with chickens provided we have rules and regulations, to look at this proposal and take it seriously for all the residents of Prospect Heights, because most of the residents in Prospect Heights do not live near chickens, do not have any idea that if they had chickens next door to them, the issues that could occur. And, you know, I've talked about what went on with me. I don't need to reiterate that. But I'm thinking that this proposal is really important because it allows people to have chickens with guidelines and protects the residents that live around the people with chickens. Permits and licensing for coops and chickens will allow residents to have their chickens while providing an assurance to the non-chicken keeping neighbors that our neighborhood stays a peaceful suburban community and does not end up becoming farmland. The current procedure for complaints about noise and odor from chicken owners puts a stress on the neighbors whose daily life is constantly interrupted by the rude chicken owners. At some point, you just give up because you can't be calling 911 10 times a day, and it really doesn't accomplish anything anyway. Also, I'd certainly prefer that our 911 services are protecting our community than actually really have to deal with chickens. So this new proposal puts a responsibility for following the rules on the chicken owners and provides enforceable expectations. And I don't see that as a bad thing. If you're a good chicken owner, it shouldn't be a problem. And best of all, it removes roosters from our neighborhoods so that people like me that have lived through roosters crowing all day never have to worry about it again. I mean, being closed up in your house constantly is not what this community is all about. And that's what I have lived through and still live through because of the squawking chickens next door. And so limiting the chickens would certainly help me out. And I guess that, you know, I'm just asking you to consider this because, like I said, you know, if people really knew what problems could occur, they would all be here filling this as well. But they don't know because they've never had, you know, bad chicken owners live next door to them, so they don't know. But when you've got, so they're not used to living next door to irresponsible chicken owners, and they just can't imagine, they just don't know. But that can change in an instant. Somebody moves in, like moved in next door to me, and just puts up a chicken coop, and it's got chickens and roosters, and they're everywhere, and they're in my yard, and the coyotes are in my yard after the chickens. I mean, it's just disgusting. And sitting out on our patio, on our deck, totally went away. We don't do that anymore because we have to listen to the farm animals next door. So this proposal needs to be approved to protect all the people in our community for now and for the future. And as a counsel for all the residents in my district or ward, I would really like you to consider this proposal. It's had hours and hours of passionate work in it, and people are really passionate about the chickens, but I'm passionate about being able to go out in my own backyard or have my windows open and not have to listen to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Genevieve Sherritt. I'm saying that correct?
Hello.
Genevieve Sheree, Ward 2, 5 Alton Road. I live in Prospect Heights with my husband and toddler, and we moved here specifically because we wanted land so that we could live in peace and raise chickens, as at least 100 other single-family homes in Prospect Heights do. Our city receives 2 to 3 complaints per year about chickens. Based on the petition from January, at least 1,400 neighbors support keeping poultry laws the way they are and rely on us for eggs, enrichment, and education. Now, we also agree that our neighbors who do not have chickens have the right to live in peace and pursue their passions on their properties. To that end, we do have the laws on the books already that protect neighbors from nuisance noises and smells and sights, and animals at large. But when we've asked why we can't just enforce those laws, we are told that the zoning office is too busy and doesn't have enough staff to enforce those laws. Adding more unenforceable laws will not fix this. Nevertheless, we have offered compromise in many areas, and some of which are reflected in the proposed restrictions that you're looking at today. But 2 things need to be stricken because they will violate personal property rights and cost us a lot of money unnecessarily. So for that reason, we're asking you to say no to a fixed number limit on birds and no to a ban on roosters, turkeys, geese, and other fowl. So let's explore this. Regarding the fixed number limit on birds, fowl come in all shapes, sizes, and space requirements. There's no one size fits all. So you can have 20 palm-sized quail that are literally that tiny, or 20 giant Brahma chickens. They're totally different things. So the problem isn't the number. If you're not inclined to take care of your pets, if you're an inconsiderate neighbor in general, you're going to make a problem regardless of whether you have 1 pet or 20. And you can't legislate away bad neighbors. All you can do is come out when a problem arises and enforce the law. We already have new restrictions in here about keeping coops a minimum distance away from neighboring residences, and a restriction about how coops cannot create a smell that's detectable to other properties, and a rule about food needing to be in pest-proof containers. That is more than enough. I need to point out, too, that many of our residents raise quail for health and allergy reasons or because they are staples in many Asian and Eastern European cultures. It takes 5 quail eggs to replace 1 chicken egg. So if your family of 5 wants to eat the equivalent of 2 chicken eggs each per day, you need at least 50 to 60 actively laying quail. So sounds like a lot, but it's no big deal. They're very tiny and they're very quiet, even the roosters. This law would unfairly discriminate against those citizens, making it an illegal code. As Mr. Peterson informed us at a previous meeting, for a zoning code to be legal, it cannot disproportionately impact some residents more than others. Our lots come in all shapes and sizes too. Half an acre is very different than 3 acres. And 20 is an arbitrary number. It's not based on science or veterinary medicine or animal husbandry guidelines. And even though the zoning board agreed to leave the fixed number limit in so that the council could decide one way or another, they did agree on record at the last meeting that a fixed number limit of birds is not truly enforceable. Regarding the rooster ban, roosters are like dogs. Some are noisier than others. It's not a given that a rooster is going to create a nuisance. I don't have them, but I am surrounded by them, behind me, next to me, and across from me. They cause us no problems. They don't wake our baby up. And if an issue did arise, there are many simple ways to limit their noise, including moving your coop, using blackout curtains, or other measures like that. Rooster bans are notorious for creating animal welfare issues, including a rise in dumped animals, an increase in cockfighting rings, and overrun rescues. And again, we've already got other restrictions in here about chicken coops being a minimum distance from neighboring residences, and a law about how 3 violations in a year would get your chicken license and coop taken away. That's pretty good. That seems more than fair to me. Regarding a ban on turkeys and geese, again, this is getting a little bit into the nuts and bolts of animal husbandry, but there are many quiet breeds of turkeys and geese that are bred specifically for backyard keeping. So these are not like Canada geese being kept. Furthermore, the new ordinances state that people will have 12 months to comply with the new laws. So if you as the council agree to that 20 limit and you agree to the rooster, turkey, goose ban, basically what we're saying is that residents who obtained their birds, their pets, and their personal property legally now have to get rid of them within a year, even though they're peaceful, law-abiding citizens. Nobody wants to kill or dump their birds. We bought and raised them. We invested time and money and feed into them. We tend them when they're hurt, and we let them play with our children. So what I would just want to implore the council to do is just let's not go from 0 to 100. The town has gotten by for so long without any restrictions on the books whatsoever. Surely we can make it a few more without going all in with the overkill, especially since this is clearly not a widespread problem. There is some good stuff here. We don't need to start from scratch, but please strike those two things. They are wrong and they're impossible to enforce. So at the end of the day, I think we can all agree that as long as our neighbors are keeping things relatively quiet and clean, we don't need to care how they live their lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sharon Lynch, up next.
Good evening, Sharon Lynch, 1425 East Algonquin. I'm actually from Des Plaines. I'm a local realtor, and I'm actually here to share with you that as a realtor who's been working in the business for 31 years, I have people specifically ask me to come to Prospect Heights because they want to be able to have chickens. As you probably know, there are other communities that don't allow them, but because you have such nice large lots here, and they also want to have gardens, some of them want to have fruit trees, it allows them the opportunity to do that. I have never in 31 years had someone say to me, do not show me a town that has chickens. They have had said to me, though, do not show me a town that has well water and septic. So when we talk about, what's best for our community and what's working best, I served on the Board of Education for 15 years in District 62, which is our Des Plaines Elementary School District. So I understand that this is a job that you have been elected to and that you really appreciate, and I'm sure that people have no idea how much literature you're reading on a regular basis and the time and effort that you put into doing your job. So let me thank you for that, because I know a lot of people don't come here to thank you for that, but they do come here to talk to you about things that are on their minds. And I think that we have to remember that we're here to serve the general population when we're elected officials, and that people obviously are speaking out and saying that they want to have chickens. I can say from a business standpoint that if you decide we're not going to have chickens, you may be actually losing some revenue. And so, right now you've got 8 properties that are for sale in this town, and all of them are on well and septic. I know there's been some conversations that you'd like to be a little bit more like Glenview. They've got 73 homes on the market right now, and only one of them is on septic and well. And while you may or may not know, a lot of times when you do have a home and you purchase it, and this house had been in the hands of a private owner for a long time, the city mandates that you hook up to city well and water, and so they eliminate people being on wells. So for some people who like to be on wells, it's great, but I think that a lot of builders shy away from areas that have just septic and well because it's a lot of money and it impacts their bottom line. And I think that people who choose to live here really like it. I think you guys do a great job. I've been to your community days, I've been to your Spook Fest. Tomorrow night I'm going to help distribute food because you guys are doing a great job with that. So I want to thank you for everything you do. And I think that, we serve our larger population, right, when we volunteer. And so I think it's in your best interest to listen to the majority of people who want to have chickens. So thank you.
Derek Sellers / Harrison Sellers.
Derek Sellers, 3 Alton Road, and Harrison Sellers, 3 Alton Road. We live next to Genevieve. We are also chicken owners. We also have a rooster, who she said obviously does not disturb our neighborhood, and we have several there. One of the appeals of our buying in Prospect Heights was the large lots, the appeal of being in the city but not being in the city. So we really appeal to being here. We really like being here. So we had the nice land, and we could raise 3 young boys, and the ability to kind of do what we wanted to do. We're not we're sympathetic to people that have the opposition to not having chickens next to them. But from my understanding, like Genevieve said, it was very rare and not too many people complaining in a year's time. I would guarantee you that there's probably been more complaints about dog barking and other things going on than possibly roosters crowing in the morning. While I do, kind of take heart to somebody that has somebody with a bad neighbor who doesn't take care of those things. And obviously those restrictions are put on people that they should keep their coop well and be respectful of their neighbors. We kind of want to just come here in front of you and ask for the respect of, the appeal of the neighborhood, how we feel about, kind of being outside of the city but in the city, which is like a really neat kind of talent to have. And that we consider that, maybe having the building department look into restrictions on, coops and things like that is kind of a useless time for them, because they're kind of overwhelmed, obviously, as we've all seen. And that if we're going to add somebody in there to kind of look at all the coop issues, you're going to have to hire probably a new employee onto the building department that probably not going to really, monetarily supersede what's going on. So we just wanted to make our voice heard, and I wanted to show my son how the public forum is worked, where you can come and speak your complaints. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next, Nikki Moylan.
Hi, good evening, City Council. I'll keep this message short because, quite frankly, I'm tired of this ongoing issue in our city, which now dates back to over a year of people's time and energy, not to mention the numerous hours of city resources that have gone towards this issue as well. Mr. Peterson's most updated code draft is in your hands, and I think the majority of it is good. What other people have echoed before me, I echo as well. However, if implemented as is, it will cost our city more time and resources than is warranted. I strongly urge you to really think about what our city needs and what the majority of your constituents want regarding banning roosters and other fowl and setting a number limit on fowl. Prospect Heights has previously had no restrictions on chicken ownership, and yet there were still only a small handful of complaints each year. Drastically changing this will cause people to need to rehome or cull, which in chicken speak is kill, their animals in order to meet compliance, even if they've never had a single complaint against them. Please think about the numerous residents who have roosters and other fowl that are not bothering anyone, whose neighbors actually enjoy them. Like, our neighbors actually asked us if we would get a rooster. So not everyone has a problem with them. Why are we punishing these people when the revocation clause in the draft ordinance in front of you states that a fowl permit will be revoked upon commission of 3 violations within a period of 12 months? Instead of putting the onus on the chicken owners, who many of us are, the majority of us are doing the right thing, I think the onus should actually go towards our city in that we have these ordinances and codes in place. They just need to be enforced. We have all of this already in place, like I said, should these nuisances arise. Please also think about the numerous residents who have more than 20 chickens that don't disturb anyone. Genevieve spoke to this earlier. When chickens are treated well and are treated humanely, which again, the majority are being treated this way, the numbers do not matter. The numbers become completely arbitrary. You could be next to a farm with 100 chickens and not even know it if they are well kept and treated humanely. So why add this additional, difficult to enforce, overreaching and arbitrary number limit? I just don't understand it. If these 2 restrictions in the draft, again, that's the only 2 things I'm asking you to change here, if these 2 restrictions in this draft could be stricken entirely, I think this draft would meet the needs of all neighbors. It provides new language around fowl ownership, guidance and regulations on coop and run structure, as well as upkeep, and it allows for revocation should people not be in compliance. I want to make sure chicken owners are not seen as the enemy here when the majority of us are doing the right thing. We don't need government overreach that would also put a strain on city workers, and we don't need animosity amongst residents and mistrust of government officials. Nobody wants any of those things. It's much harder to change city code once it goes into effect as well. So I really urge you to keep this new draft as simple as possible by not taking those two drastic measures of banning roosters and other fowl and putting that arbitrary number limit on fowl ownership. Let's see how this new draft goes over the next year, because a lot of work by Mr. Peterson and residents of the community have gone into it, and those two things could be added later should the need arise. Thank you for your time.
Last one I have here is Christine Scheel.
Hello. Christine Shield, 103 Schombeck Road, Prospect Heights, right around the corner. I'm going to be really bad at this because I didn't prepare ahead of time, and also I don't have my glasses. So, just a couple things. So I work in agriculture. This is my business. This has been my entire career. I've literally cared for thousands, not hundreds, thousands of chickens in my lifetime. So what I want you to understand that when I say that I support the people who previously spoke, that they are 100% right in what they're presenting to you, I hope that that carries some weight, that this is my business, I do this for a living. They're right. My husband and I, moved here 25 years ago. We've raised 3 kids here, and we came here because we wanted a big lot and a community that had kind of a homesteading, lifestyle, friendly community. This is why we came here. And this little by little, that's just being eroded by overregulation. You know, we wanted big gardens, fruit trees, chickens, ducks, quails, turkeys. We wanted to do this. This is the life that we chose. And you're taking it away from us, and if you do, we will leave. Because this is why we came here. If we wanted to live in Arlington Heights or Glenview or Wilmette, that's where we would have bought a house. But we bought here because this is the lifestyle we wanted. And I just don't think it's fair that after 25 years, we're being penalized when we had fowl in our yard decades, never had a complaint, not one, but we're being penalized, and it's not right. As far as the noise, I'm just so befuddled by the whole rooster noise thing. Roosters are no different than dogs. There's big roosters, there's small roosters, there's quiet roosters, there's loud roosters. There's many ways that you can address the crowing behavior of a rooster. If you have a rooster that crows a lot, there's things you can do. Some of them have already been listed, some of them haven't, but there's other things that you can do to quiet your rooster. I had a rooster once. We've had a few, but we had one that I thought was kind of loud, and we tried a few things. He really liked to crow, so I found him a new home on my own because I didn't want to disturb my neighbors. So I think as a responsible chicken owner, that's an option for me. I don't understand why we're not comparing this with dogs. I have 3 houses around me who leave their dogs out in their yard for hours at a time. The dogs bark, 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 bark. There's so much more nuisance in my community than the few roosters that I can hear a little bit around my house once in a long while, but not like the dogs. Man, do they bark all the time. And we have a process for that. We had one neighbor who had a really big dog that they left out every day, all day in the yard. The dog's a really big nuisance. I called my alderman. I said, what do I do? He said, call 911. We did, so I did. I don't love that process, but that's the process we have, and honestly, it worked. The police came, they listened, they agreed that this dog was barking nonstop. They could hear the dog too. They wrote this person a few tickets for their nuisance dog, and the problem was solved. They put up a fence like a privacy fence so the dog couldn't see so much, and then the dog stopped barking as much, and it kind of settled down. So the process that we have really does work. And I just don't understand why roosters are indifferent. They're not. They're really, really not. We have the problem that we have with dogs is so much more serious than the problem we have with chickens, and we're not doing anything about the dogs. So I don't understand why we're targeting people with chickens, or roosters, I should say. And honestly, chicken owners, depending on how they house their chickens, they need the roosters. The roosters protect the hens. So if you have a fenced yard and you have your chickens kind of loose around your yard, chickens don't fly, they're not going to leave your yard. Then you need your roosters out there to protect the hens that you have from the owls and the hawks that are going to predate on them. I guess in short, what I want to say is I completely agree with the 2 requests that have been presented by the people who spoke previously, that you strike the ban on roosters and that you strike the numbers. Like, everything that they said about the numbers is completely true. Chickens come in really, really tiny ones. And the number of chickens has nothing to do with whether or not your chickens are going to be a nuisance in your yard. It's how you care for them. So that's what I got. Thanks for listening.
We don't have a consent agenda today, So we'll skip to new business. Item A, ordinance O2413, staff memo and ordinance for the consideration of text amendments to Title V zoning, Chapter 2 definitions, Chapter 3 general provisions, and Chapter 6 adding keeping fowl chickens as a permitted special use, and Title IX police regulations, Chapter 1 animal control of the city of code pertaining to keeping fowl chickens in R1 single-family district. This is a first reading, so there is no vote on that until the second reading, which will be at the next meeting. What's the date?
December
9th.
9th.
December 9th. So the actual vote will occur on December 9th for this. Did you want to say something, Dan?
I'm here because I'm the applicant.
Okay, you're the applicant.
I'm the
Okay.
applicant, that's the job you gave me to do.
Okay, so this is just the first reading. So the second reading will be on December 9th. So there's no action on this today other than to do the first reading. So we'll go on to item B, ordinance O24, thank you, Dan. Item O2424, staff memo and ordinance, police pension levy. Can we omnibus this?
Should do it at the,
Oh.
do it by vote ahead of time. There's no rush. You can.
Okay, sure, sure.
B through H.
Sure. What happened?
They're all first readings though, so.
There's only one. I just like to.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So if they're all just first reading, then we.
What's he want to table?
Concrete. Way down. The I.
Okay.
So we don't necessarily need to omnibus since they're all first reading, I think.
I'll be the
So
first.
yeah, everything through I until I is first reading.
So make a motion, omnibus?
We can do omnibus B through H.
Okay.
Because I and J and K are all second, have a second.
Okay.
Motion second roll call.
So we're going to do the tax levy based on an omnibus. It's a first reading also, so there's no action. It's just to bring the item out. So I'm going to look for an omnibus motion, or no omnibus motion.
First reading.
Don't even need to do anything. So it's just a first reading for items B through H. No action required on them until the next meeting on December 9th. Those are just the tax levies.
You want a description from Sherry?
Of them?
Yeah, just.
Yeah, I mean, if Sherry, you want to give a description of what they are?
Sure.
Just in general,
Sure.
each one?
So we have our tax levies in front of us. We are having 7 tax levies, very consistent with what we've had in the past. 3 of the levies are related to SSA 5 and 8, and then our police pension levy. We are increasing these levies less than 5%, so a truth in taxation hearing was not required. In total, our levies proposed for 2024 are $2,211,606 versus what our actual tax extension was from 23, $2,249,186. It's a decrease of 1.67% or approximately 37,000. It's been decreasing over the last couple of years because of the debt service requirements decreasing. That's the most significant portion of these 7 levies. 4 of the levies are a $0 amount, SSA 1 through 4. That is because those SSAs are still active, and so we want to keep it on the records at Cook County, but their levies are 0. So in summary, we have the 2 debt service levies, we have the police pension, and then we have SSA 5. So those are the 7 levies for this year.
And if I could add, because sometimes people have a misconception of their property tax bill, we hear this repeatedly, that I pay a lot of taxes to the city. As a non-home rule community, we do not levy a property tax for corporate fund purposes. The only property taxes that we levy are what is allowable by state law, a small portion of the police pension amount, and I think in total, that probably comes to about $450,000. Which is short of what the 1.5 million that we need.
Right.
The road bond is what pays for our roads. And that was done about 2010, 2011 or so. It was a 15-year bond issue. That will be ending in 2026, as Sherry said. And then the special service areas are elected by voters. So I don't want anybody to leave this room thinking that they're paying a property tax. As a non-home rule community, as real estate people would know, Des Plaines, Glenview, Arlington Heights, Mount Prospect, all of them levy property taxes. Sometimes, depending on their tax base, Glenview is very small, but others might be 10 or 12% of what their property taxes are.
Just one more thing,
Just a
Mayor.
clarification of that.
Of the $2.2 million tax levy that we're proposing, $1.6 million of that is related to debt service. So the city really has minimal discretionary funds built into our levy, as Joe said. It's debt service or it's police pension funding, which is another $500,000. So if you had the debt service and police pension, the discretionary money is coming into our SSAs for $34,000 and $170,000, the levy 37 and the other SSA 5. So there is really no discretionary money for city spending in the general fund at all that's coming out of this levy.
And when you use the term debt service, you're talking about servicing the debt of the road bonds?
Correct.
For the roads?
Correct. The road bond, both, yes.
Just general debt?
No, the stormwater management and then the road bonds, two debt service payments.
Okay. All right, thank you. We are going to remove item I from the agenda. We will not be voting on that. Go to item J, Resolution R2445, staff memo and resolution approving a renewal contract with Alliant Mesereau Financial for property casualty, workers' compensation, cyber liability insurance for the year beginning December 1st, 2024 through November 30th, 2025. So we need a motion to approve.
So moved, Morgan Adams.
Second.
Anderson.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Cameron.
Aye.
Alderman Anderson.
Aye.
Alderman Morgan Adams.
Aye.
Alderman Dolick.
Aye.
Motion passes.
If I could add, our insurance representative, Leah Kozad, is here. It may be just a couple minutes, just to explain what you do. We're not complaining. It's a 3% increase in an inflationary and volatile market. But maybe just for the edification of the council, if you could kind of explain the process of what you do.
Gladly. Good evening, Council. My name is Leah Kozad. I do work at Alliant Insurance Services, and we act as your broker for property and casualty insurance. Big picture, each year I meet with the staff, and they do an excellent job in partnering with us to get the necessary information out to the carriers. And throughout the year, there's a variety of services that we try to provide, either through us, the brokerage, or through the insurance providers. I bring that up because two of your providers have been with you for a number of years now. For the property and casualty, it's Illinois County's Risk Management Trust. And in addition to the premiums you pay for the insurance, they provide a lot of risk management services. Also, this year, they provided additional grant funds to be used for loss control measures. So that is, I don't want to say arbitrary, but it is based on each member's claims experience and also length of time with the carrier. So Prospect Heights has been with ICRMT now for a number of years, and you're starting to reap some extra benefits above insurance providing. Same way with Illinois Public Risk Fund. Illinois Public Risk Fund is your carrier for the workers' compensation. And similar to ICRMT, they offer grant money that is given to the city to use for loss control measures. And that is their proprietary formula, but once again, a lot of it's based on claims experience and length of time with the carrier. So these are two carriers that were very attractive. They continue to offer competitive rates. And I know so by reaching out to the other insurance providers. Unfortunately, because you reside within Cook County, the number of carriers that are willing to write within Cook County, and that's driven things that are outside of your control. It is the jury award, the severity of those jury awards relating to liability claims is continually increasing, and unfortunately Cook County is one of those counties that it's a bit of a hotbed. So while I reached out to other carriers to see if they can improve on the terms of your coverages or the pricing of your coverages. Most of them said we cannot improve on the terms and we definitely cannot improve on the pricing. So that is what I do. I field the exposures out to the carriers and see what they can provide on behalf of Prospect Heights. I would like to add, although it's a minimal coverage, we were able to add a coverage this year. It's a $300 per year premium, but it is a lovely policy that provides some protection for your volunteers. So if you have volunteers that help out with your variety of events within the city of Prospect Heights, and unfortunately if they should be injured, this policy responds. And it's another way to kind of insulate or protect against your workers' compensation policy, because technically volunteers are not employees. The carrier would provide coverage, but it would take a lot of arm twisting. So to avoid that back and forth and to provide some protection, we were able to add a policy for you this year. Like I said, a minimal premium. So any questions or anything else I might answer for you? Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been my honor to serve as your broker, and I look forward to another year of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah.
Thank you, Leah.
Also, if I could just call attention, as Leah mentioned, the insurance is the larger universe of losses that we're not responsible for, but we're impacted by. Some of them are by nature, but what we can control, I want to thank particularly our department directors here tonight. All of them take safety very seriously. Mark Roscoe in Public Works, we had an excellent year. Dan Peterson in the Community Development Building. And Police Department, Deputy Chief Milo Durman is here tonight. In case you saw this past week, there was an incident where a young man was driving near Hersey High School, then went up Rand Road, ended up hitting a truck. The officer, a new officer, immediately called that off. And that's the type that you can't enforce stupid. And this person was just driving way too fast. The officer called that off, and those are the types of things that are losses. So all of you, you contributed greatly to our safety record.
Thank you. Item K is the approval of our 2025 City Council regular meeting calendar. We need a motion to approve.
I'd like to table that. There's a few dates that are a problem.
I think we typically will change, I think those dates are identified in there to say that we'll change them at the time when it will work out at the meeting before or 2 meetings before versus trying to pick those days now.
I would appreciate if we would table it and we can revisit this on the December 9th meeting.
Sure, no problem.
Thank you.
Do you want to make a change to the dates, or or do you want to?
Yeah, I want to look at the dates and make a change in the dates. Yes.
Okay.
Do we need a motion to table it, or do we just accept the?
Yeah, motion to
All
table.
right, we need a motion to table till the December 9th meeting.
So move, Morgan Adams.
Second, Cameron.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Cameron.
Aye.
Alderman Anderson.
Aye.
Alderman Morgan Adams.
Aye.
Alderman Dolick.
Aye.
Motion passes. Staff and elected officials and commission reports. We have our October financial report by Assistant Finance Director Bob Tannehill. He's not here, so Sherry will be doing that.
Yes, hi. The financial report for 6 months ending October 31st was in the agenda packet. At this point in the year, 50% of the way through, our revenues are at 45% of budget, our expenses are at 31%. I just want to highlight a couple of our revenues that are doing better than budget. On the local tax revenue, we have collected $1.495 million versus our budget of $3 million, so we're at about 49% there in our total local tax revenue. Our electric utility taxes collected is $188,000. They're at 55% of budget. Places of eating, all our small local businesses, we've collected $217,000 of a budget, 62% covered. Intergovernmental revenues, which are mostly determined by the state's budget, we are at $2.461 million versus $4.2 million budget, so that's at 57%. So our revenues are looking good. On the expense side, our departmental budgets are all under 50% spending at 6 months into the year, between 36 and 47% of expenditures thus far. So the details of the different accounts are in the packet. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to help.
Any questions? All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll start on my right with staff reports with Peter.
I just want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there, and I look forward to seeing a big crowd on Saturday for our annual tree lighting and Santa Claus visit, and I'm sure someone will have a little bit more to say about that. Thank you.
I guess I'd be that somebody. Come one, come all, Saturday, 5 p.m. to the Gary Morava Center for the annual holiday tree lighting ceremony. Santa Claus will be there, his elves. The Lions Club and the Garden Club will also be there giving out hot chocolate and sweets. It's become it's been a tradition for year after year. It's moved around a little bit, but we've been at the Morava Center now, I believe it's 7 years or so. It's spectacular. It's what makes us Mayberry. The tree this year is dynamic. It's huge. We had it donated from a resident just in Wheeling. There'll be a little, in the e-news, there was a great little picture about it and stuff like that. That's it. I'm really excited about it.
You had some help moving the tree?
We did. We had all of the Public Works staff, myself, and then Gene's Towing brought in a big wrecking truck, and Joe and one of his crew. It's a big feat. We don't move trees that often. Usually when we take down a tree, it's coming down for a reason, not to transplant it. So they've helped us out in the past. It really worked out well. No injuries for our insurance folks. It went off without a hitch. Everyone was wearing full safety gear. And it's really a neat experience and something to go through to plant it and realize that it's a big community event. So I'll be your MC this year. So looking for a volunteer to do it next year. So that's it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Dan?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. A couple things up on the new business report. I reported in weekly staff update a little bit ago, the new Piri Piri restaurant at 1313 North Rand Road opened. We will be having a ribbon cutting grand opening event shortly. I'm meeting with the two brothers who opened that new franchise. They've got great healthy alternatives, not just your typical fried foods, biryani rice, grilled the flavored chicken and other designs, and a whole vegetarian menu. So please check that out. They're good. Update on the 1201, 1213 North Elmhurst property. We have a new Bobo Tea company going in there to one of the sites that Nail Salon is not going back into. And then we have a new salon going in there where Mike's Barbershop was at the Z, it's called Z Salon. And in the first PZBA meeting of January, we have a small family-owned restaurant coming in for a special use permit to open up in the mall. So 3 new businesses, and that replaces about 50% of those that we lost. So the property owner's making good headway. And then finally, just to bring the council up to date on the records retention and scanning RFP project, we received 3 qualified bids for the software scanning retention, and we've done evaluations. We will be starting our interviews with them next week on Monday the 2nd. I'm happy to announce that we had 9 responses for the scanning services, and we're down to 3, and we'll be following up with those 3 next week. I thought it was a very good turnout for our community to get 9 companies and vendors looking at providing services for us, so I think we'll get a good deal out of it. So thank you very much for the support in the project, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Just want to touch briefly on this weekend's food driving Thanksgiving food drive event, a very successful event. A lot of volunteers, police department volunteers and officers volunteered their time. We collected a large number of non-perishable goods, and we plan on distributing the food tomorrow. We anticipate over 100 families will be fed for Thanksgiving, thanks to all the donations from residents and surrounding jurisdictions that were shopping at Tony's over the weekend.
Nice. Thank you.
Other than that.
Joe? Rich? Down to you.
I just want to give a plug for PHTV. PHTV will be at the Christmas tree lighting, providing a sound system, Christmas music, shooting video, taking stills. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
That's great.
Elected to my left, anybody have any report?
I want to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving, and so we're going to hopefully get snow, so. I don't know, but my son-in-law says there's snow coming, so, and he works for Naperville, so if he says it's coming, it's coming. It truly is. So I want to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving. And the second thing, it's not my, but going back to 9A regarding the chickens and stuff like that, we didn't really discuss anything. We kind of had, I think I would have liked to heard from Dan, you know, what his thoughts were. I really would like to get some information of his thoughts, you know, because people came out, you know, and I would like to hear his thoughts if that's possible.
Sure. We can revisit that.
I appreciate that.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'm here to report on the activities of the Planning and Zoning Board and the issue related to keeping chickens. I want to thank the residents who turned out at two separate informational meetings, 2 nights of public hearing, provided over 13 hours of videotaped commentary that was all very passionate, very well thought out, and very well presented. I want to thank the Chairman Kampa and the PZBA for being open, taking consideration of all the comments that were made, and made some significant changes to what was originally proposed. So I thought this was effectively a very well done public involvement process, you know, of all the processes that we've had. I want to let people know that the animal control ordinance did not prohibit chickens or that. And so therefore, it was silent, and under the police ordinance, if it's not specifically prohibited, it's allowed, understood. However, nowhere in the city's zoning code did it allow for the keeping of chickens ever. As a matter of fact, in the definitions of the zoning code, agricultural uses needs a minimum of 5 acres. So one of the goals coming into this is because people have had chickens forever in town, was not to take away that privilege, that right, but to provide reasonable, consistent, enforceable, understandable rules and guidelines that not only the chicken keepers can follow, because there was a lot of them that were confused about what the requirements were they invested in because staff didn't really give them guidance in the past. So we were looking at how to correct that. And so therefore, a lot of research went into. I personally reviewed over 25 municipal ordinances. We tried to figure out a methodology to establish how many birds could be kept on a property based on lot size, because when you analyze those communities that have ordinances, most of them have a lot smaller lots than we do, and it had a mathematical equation. So we tried to put some standardizations to that. We additionally needed to look at lot coverage, types of structures, where structures are, to protect those. We have a lot of areas in town and a lot of residents, not only in the single-family district, but also in the multifamily district on the east side, to have structures in the floodplain. And if there are illegal structures or other structures that are built in a floodplain that negatively impact our community service rating, which is 6, which is good, it provides over 20% discount to those properties that are required to have flood insurance. If there are violations and we lose it, the River Trails Complex specifically can pay $120,000 a year in flood insurance. That would go up by a minimum of 20%. That comes out to an average cost to every resident in that complex of who are paying roughly $333 a unit to go up 20%. And they don't even have the ability to have chickens. And zoning, by the way, regulates the use of the land. So what this ordinance does is it establishes keeping of chicken as a permitted use in the single-family district, which up until now, technically you needed 5 acres to do agriculture and raising of chickens and keeping the chickens and meat production. That is all part of agriculture farming. So what we've done is given the ability through this ordinance, of those who want to keep chickens, giving them the ability to have more than any other municipality have in the suburbs and in the area, and provides those residents with proper setbacks, constructions, and permitting protection from other neighbors, for those other property owners that are not chicken keepers. So I think the process was very open, very public. We had a lot of involvement, the most that I've ever been involved with in 32 years of doing this job, and I think everybody's pretty passionate. And one of the good outcomes of this is there's a very knowledgeable, experienced, actually very good chicken keepers who have volunteered to offer assistance when we're ready. Okay, and be a resource for those people who are looking to get into keeping chickens. So I think at the end of the day, we have a very good ordinance here that will address the issues raised and make chicken keeping a good, viable use within the R1 district, which was always the goal. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Are there other questions?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Anderson?
Just want to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving, and that we each give thanks to all the blessings that we have with our families and our community. Thank you.
Just a safe and happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Okay, thank you. I have an announcement. I don't know if anybody noticed my slip of my tongue when I was asking our deputy chief for his report, but I have an announcement to make. Our chief is retiring in February, and Deputy Chief Milo Durman has been selected to be our new chief, effective February.
Thank you.
That was a little slip on my part, but because that was on my mind to make sure that I announced that tonight. So congratulations.
Thank you.
So now you get the candy.
So item 11, approval of warrants. Will the deputy clerk read the warrants?
For the November 25th approval of the expenditures with a total of $280,967.07. There's a wire payment on November 15th for payroll of $187,026.24. There was also an October IMRF payment of $15,941.23. That brings a total warrant of $483,934.54 tonight.
We need a motion to approve.
So moved, Anderson.
Second, Cameron.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Alderman Cameron.
Aye.
Alderman Anderson.
Aye.
Alderman Morgan Adams.
Aye.
Alderman Dole.
Aye.
Motion passes. Do we have any comments on non-agenda items?
No.
No? We have no executive session tonight. So with that, I look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Anderson.
Second, Cameron.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Happy Thanksgiving.